Squat.
Squat! Say I serve! I serve!
Squat there, feet the sand, please.
March! 1, 2, halt!
Okay. So, can I flip? I don't think I can flip this. Can I flip this now? No. I could flip mid. Wow, this is actually really cool. First time ever doing this. This is, uh, what is this? Okay. Inspection. So, I don't have any military experience because I was a convicted felon at 15 with a strike. Oh, no. Because I was, at that time, strikes were only applied for 16 and older. So I was 15 when I committed the quote unquote carjacking, 211, first degree, 211. Second degree? I don't know, 211, whatever. And so I didn't get a strike for that one, but then the next time I went to jail was a violation. So the statistics were in YA, I went to YA, that several things on this, on the multiple levels. This made me realize something, a theme. Patterns don't exist necessarily in real life. They exist in the mind, so we make them up. Imagination, creativity. So, but this gave me inspiration to create another aspect of this narrative that I have in my mind, of patterns that I see in my life, my story that I consider. So the statistics was that okay, so I did 21 months in YA on a 6-year sentence, which was like, and the only reason actually I could have got out probably 3 months earlier because I had no disciplinary action and I had really good whatever results. But the catch is you don't start getting good time credit until you actually hit your official facility. And I started off in SRCC, which is the Southern Reception Center and Clinic in Norwalk. And typically, at the most people are there is for 3 months. Average is 2 months, and sometimes you get out of there even quicker, and then you get to your home, whatever your main line facility, and then you start getting your credits, if you any credits that you can accumulate. So I don't have any gang affiliations or nothing like that, or racial biases. Um, so, but I was stuck in SRCC for 4 months, and there's some theories of mine as to why I was there for so long. Part of it, my theory, is that at the time, I was recommended from the teacher that taught because I was 15 years old, so she taught that group. I forgot what dorm we were called. Camarillo, I think it was Camarillo unit. So we were all, they break it up by age. So like the oldest dorm there went to, I think at that facility you stopped at 18, and then if you were over 18 you went to YTS, I think was the one over in Chino. And that was 18 to 24, and then at 24 you aged out or maxed out, or they have some kind of term for it, and then you go to prison. So, but the teacher offered us to enter an essay contest. So I was like, all right, fuck it, I'll write an essay. I wrote an essay, and in that region, and I think, to be honest with you, that I might have been the only person submitting an essay in Norwalk, because I'm talking about the school district. We qualify for, I guess, part of their school district or something like that, or the schools in that region. So my essay got the number one, but this is like giving everybody a trophy kind of thing. As far as I understand it, I don't think that there were like 1,000 kids that submitted essays and that my essay was, or even 100 kids. I don't even think there were 10 kids, seriously. So, but anyways, my essay got the number one award for that area. Maybe even just that facility. We'll just simplify it down to that. So the librarian, now there wasn't a library at this place for 20 something years because the guards had convinced the state to stop funding it because it was considered a waste of whatever resources. So I don't know how it happened. Some lady named Phyllis Nemeth, she got permission to reopen the library. Towards her efforts, there's one dorm in this facility because it's a reception center that is for what you call like permanent mainline, and it was a dorm that had either special needs or protective custody. So you had some various like sex offenses, plus you literally had people that had various levels of disorders, whether educational or mental or emotional, whatever. So of that group, they told her she had to pick. That's where the only place she can get help from at first. So she picked one person that seemed to be, stable enough to provide her the help she needed for organizing and the preparation for reopening a library. The guards didn't like that act of hers, and as she got closer and closer to successfully opening it, the guards did they called correction. No, they don't call correction officers. They were called, I forgot what they were called anyways. But I remember my number 67270. They that was 30 years ago too. They did a random search on this guy's dorm, a room, and found a shank. Now, we'll never know. As far as she was able to gather, that he claimed it was a setup. He was framed by the cops in an effort to try to sabotage her accomplishing this goal of opening thing. So, cross-reference all this fucking timeline and shit like that. My essay comes in. Apparently, this designates me as... Oh, and then they make you take some kind of test too. Placement test or something like that. And I was 15, but I don't know what this means either. But my reading and comprehension levels were above college level. So that combined with my essay accomplishment, the teacher came up with the bright idea, not really understanding the other dynamic of it, because this librarian is not going around like me, a conspiracy theorist, going, "Oh, hey, the cops are trying to stop me," to her colleagues, because she don't know who's what, and these motherfuckers have worked there way longer than her, because she hasn't even been there a year, as far as I understand, if I remember correctly. So she's literally on her own. She got no one to turn to. So she's not going to the teacher and be like, "Oh, I think that they set the guy up," and blah 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 blah. She's just like, "Fuck, well, what am I gonna do?" The teacher, somewhat oblivious, is like, "Oh, hey, there's this kid," so she recommends me. Likewise, also oblivious, and so they first pass it through the sergeant of the dorm, Sergeant Govan, and she had already made me the grievance clerk, which was this actually very rare. Most of the jobs are kitchen jobs, but very rare to get a paying job inside a reception center. So I was actually getting paid to be a grievance clerk, and part of being a grievance clerk was that you had to be available to all the inmates in the event that they had a grievance, because it was all confidential kind of shit. So I was basically like literally a jailhouse lawyer. And so anytime that there was rec time, I had to be out and available. So I got doubled my rec time, because you normally only went out with one side, and sometimes you only went out with, each side had a corridor, so you had two sides of each corridor. On certain situations, only one side of the corridor would be able to get their 1 hour a day of rec. So if that was a situation, I would have rec with all these times. On the weekend and shit like that, if they gave you 2 hours, I would have 4 hours and kind of shit like that. So movie time, I got, see this, basically, and they show the same movie typically. So I got to, but I was out there. So I get the job at the library. Okay, where am I going with this? So my theory is, it's possible that the guards, in an effort, because it would have looked very suspicious if all of a sudden, and Sergeant Govan wouldn't buy it. That bitch was a fucking badass black bitch, motherfucking woman. God damn, she was a fucking, goddamn, a beast. So there's no fucking way in hell, because obviously it was predominantly white males that were the guards. or that ran the place, and that were probably against the library, and them doing a random search, getting Sergeant Govan to go along with them doing a random search and finding a fucking shank in my room wasn't gonna fucking fly. So maybe the closest thing, this is just a theory, is that they figured that they would retaliate against me by way of keeping me there longer. And then on top of that, so again, normally people are at a reception center. 3 months is considered a long time. After the 4 months in the reception center, they sent a busload of us, and I wasn't the only one. There were about 20 other people that got shipped up to NRCC, Northern Reception Center in Sacramento. So I did another 2 months there. So for 6 months, I didn't have access to any good time credits. So I could have got out earlier, but I did 21 months. So when you were getting out, they make it I don't know if it's a warning or a prediction, whatever it is, but statistically it goes like this: 9 out of 10 youth authority release parolees return within 1 year. So part of my agenda was to stay out at least over 1 year. This is not a joke. 363 days later, I was violated. I was under 18, but the guy that violated me, the parole officer that violated me, he wanted to make me learn my lesson or something like that. Learn my lesson. It's all projection in the mind. So he actually went above and beyond and sent me, technically illegally, to YTS reception center where everybody's over 18. I wasn't over 18, so they had to put me. I don't remember having a cellie at that time. They couldn't put a cellie with me because there would have been somebody over 18, and if anything fucking happened, the facility itself would be fucked, because that would be like a child endangerment and all kinds of fucking levels of shit. So I never got to leave my motherfucking cell. Then when I went to the parole hearing to determine what my sentence was going to be, kind of like, I don't know if it was a compensation or something like that, kind of like they, the person that was doing it didn't want to, like, they don't want to snitch or uphold the law or even uphold the rules against their fellow coworkers and colleagues. So, but at the same time, they're human and they recognize when something's wrong and they know the rules themselves, and they're like, okay, well, what the fuck are you doing here? I'm like, I don't know. I don't understand, because, I'm just going along with it. And they're like, okay, you're not even supposed to fucking be here. All right, here's what we're going to do. I think it might have been also a thing to keep me quiet. I don't know how it goes, because just being there was criminal. Actually a crime. So their thing was, look, we're not going to violate you for a year. We're going to give you a break, okay? Since you were out for almost a year, this was literally what they were telling me, we're going to put you in a special program, a boot camp program. And I went to Fred C. Nellis, which was considered one of the most ruthless YA facilities in the whole system. I think it was in competition. Let me see, Fred C. Nellis and Prescott were probably the top two most dangerous facilities. Then you got into Chad. No, there's another one by Chad up in OH. Why? Because the first time I went to OH closed, which is actually, there's 4 different juvenile prisons in one giant prison system, and one is for the youth and blah blah blah. And then you get to Chad, was for the older guys up until the 24, and that one had serious. I mean, we're at the OH closed with the kids. You had they call battery packing, where people put locks and batteries. Like, they just did this in this movie to this guy, but they're doing this to him because he's gay. Where they put a soap in a thing and they beat him. You might have seen that in Full Metal Jacket. So that was actually a pretty common occurrence, because you had a lot of, anyways. So, but that was the first time. That's where I did all my the rest of my 21 months. I finished off and got released. So now this fast forward to Fred C. Nellis. But the catch is, this boot camp program is completely segregated from the main line of Fred C. Nellis. It's not PC, it's just separated. So I was actually, when I got out, I had thinking that I was to stay out. I was going to stay out of trouble. I understood, idle hands are the tools of the devil. So, like, one of the things that I did was my grandfather was in the Air Force during World War II. None of my family had ever gone in that same route. So I joined the Air Force ROTC, which happened to be at my school, Poly in Sun Valley, California, Polytech. And so I had all this basic military training. I had actually earned rank in the Air Force because of my time and passing tests that I would have gone in at like 2 levels above somebody that went in without a college education or just off of the street. But I don't think I would have been able to go because of that felony anyways. So but because the school rules too, they had to tell all my teachers that I was a parolee. So my instructors of the Air Force ROTC, junior ROTC, they knew too. So I don't know how that worked out. But anyways, so I had training. So we get there, like they have a scene right now where these guys get off of the bus for the thing and they have footprints painted on the floor so they know how to stand. We didn't have that. And so we get out and they're telling, okay, stand at attention. And I mean, I've been doing this for fucking 2 semesters of high school. So, you know, I went to a fucking summer camp at fucking not Camp Pendleton, that's in San Diego. Point Hueneme, there's something up there in Oxnard, California, Navy base, that I went for like a 2-week, maybe even, I think it was a 2-week boot camp program. We even flew in a C-130. But we did marching, all kinds of shit like that. So I had skills. So when they're telling people to stand at attention and do your spacing, and I'm standing because they line you up by name too. So you have A, B, C. You know, you have A, B based on we are the biggest group. We were Bravo group. They had Alpha Bravo, Charlie Delta. So 4 instructors. Had 1 instructor per group was the main one, and then they had a auxiliary staff that were just paid extra money because they did a lot more shit, and they were high level. Like the guy that was the California champion boxer was one of the instructors. I forgot what his name was. He was very disciplined and strict. Our main instructor was a heroic, like serious hero, considered U.S. hero of the Vietnam vet. I don't think the Vietnam was a hero of war, but whatever. So this guy was an airborne who had like record jumps on fucking in enemy territory. Aragon, a Mexican guy. So he reminded me a lot like my grandfather, because my grandfather, he had his own claim to fame that it could be argued and never proven. That, you know, by the time he joined in 1943, he lied. This is true. He lied and said he was 18 when he was 17, and they didn't give a fuck because they wanted anybody to fight, especially that he was a fucking little wetback. But he ended up being in a B-17 belly gunner under the big planes with the 250 calibers. So at that time, they had already come to the policy where you only flew in 27 missions because of the stress level. And you know what? They didn't have a term for it in World War II, but in World War I they called it shell shock, and then later on they called it PTSD. So in World War II they didn't fucking have anything for that shit, but they recognized that it was real, and they figured that, you know, around about 27 missions is when people started to fucking crack, because being in a plane is not fucking, you don't feel safe just because you're high up there. In many senses, you feel more vulnerable. And what he claimed was that he, being the little Mexican that he was only 5'2" his entire fucking life. Talk about Indian blood. He fit perfectly. He was comfortable inside the belly gunner. So he claimed that he got a reputation on the base that people that were scared and everything, that, you know, whatever, they just had a kid, their parents died, or, you know, somebody's sick, that if they were scared to fly in the point plane mission, that they could go find Zavala, and this crazy fucking wetback would take their spot at the risk of being court-martialed along with them. The Army isn't going to be, or the Air Force isn't going to be, hey, you good little wetback, thanks for taking us, or thanks for filling in. They're going to be like, you disobeyed orders just as much as the guy that AWOL. Because you weren't where you're supposed to be, and if we needed you over here and you were in there, then that's AWOL. And so he claimed to fly in over 70 missions. That's not provable. So anyways, this guy Aragon, he took this fucking shit hardcore serious, to the point where at this time, this group, he was in conflict with not all the other staff, but a core group of the other staff. And there's always thirds, okay? So you break things up into thirds. You got people that are guilty, people that are fighting people that are criminals in one sense, people that are fighting the criminals, and you got the people in the middle that don't want to get involved. So he was fighting the criminal staff who were using physical violence to, in their perception of what the program was meant to be. None of them had any military experience either, too. So he took that personally and reported them and actually snitched on them. And there was an investigation going on over the sergeant that was running that motherfucking thing, who was a steroid using fucking big ass. He talk like this all the time. And then a couple other guards. The boxer was one of the I don't want to get involved. And there was this other black lady, I forgot her name was, but she was a fucking anal ass motherfucking surgeon type fucking disciplinary action. And all these people got to run and be physically fit because they run with us. And we run 2 miles a day and 5 miles on fucking jog 5 miles on Sunday. And we do PT and shit like that. So that's why they got paid extra. But there you got the thirds that didn't want to be involved either. So, but we didn't know about this. So initially he's like, line yourself up. And then I start doing this thing. And then people are looking at me and he catches on to this. So at first I get his attention in a positive light. And so he says, go out here, get out here, get these motherfuckers lined up or something like that. So then I, here you go, place yourself like that, put your feet at this angle, hold your hand like this is blah, 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 blah. But then really quickly, something happened in which some guy named Barajas from San Diego, where was he from? He was from a gang. I almost remembered his gang too. But anyways, he was from San Diego. He did something. And he like complained that he didn't even want to be here. And he's like, oh, you don't want to be here? All right, get out and give me 20. He's like, as a matter of fact, you know what, Mr. Barajas, get back in line. And he's like, everybody else in your squad. So since there were like 21 of us, there were 3 groups. Each one had like 7 people. So alphabetically, okay? So I forgot where I was in it, but I wasn't the last person. But there was like a Calderon 2 or something like that. I'm CAF. Caffrey, C-F-F-E-R-Y. There was like a Calderon and maybe one other C. Cardoza. There was a Cardoza too. Oh, but he would have been in front of me. He was from Merced. So anyways, he tells Barajas, from now on, whenever you fuck up, everybody else in your squad is going to do push-ups. So this is brand new. What this guy, guard would do, this instructor would do is anything that he did wrong, he would call out to A squad. And we'd have to do push-ups for Barajas. And Barajas wouldn't never have to do push-ups. So this was a mental fucking warfare game, okay? So that was targeting Barajas, okay? So he'd even go to do bed inspections. Barajas might even been my bunkmate, come to think of it. So I knew what was gonna fucking happen. I'm not expecting any fucking mercy. I'm fucking already hip the game. I probably already saw fucking Full Metal Jacket, so it's like, I'm not shocked at anything. So he comes up to like the bed. He's like this, make your bed. He's like, this bed isn't tight enough. He pulled the fucking sheet back. Like he'd go like, oh, your bed's not tight. And then we fix it like that. He's like, oh, you think that's tight enough? He'd be like, we fix it right in front of his face. He's like, oh, you think that's tight enough? That doesn't look tight enough to me. Get down and give me fucking 10. So everybody's fucking cracking under pressure. But Barajas is feeling his insecurity. Then he'd be like, clean your bed, and he'd come and run his finger like this. That looks like dust to me. Drop and give me 5. Because we're doing a lot of push-ups, so he's not doing this 50 and 20 kind of shit like that. We couldn't even do 5. You don't understand. This is so fucking repetitious. One time I remember we were marching, we didn't get to go 5 steps. And he dropped us like 8 times for fucking 5 push-ups. He couldn't even do 5 fucking push-ups. It was just brutal. So as time progressed, one of the Cholo guys his name was Diablo from Coachella Valley. No, it was the guy, I think he was also from IE because he had 2 kids. He was like, sir, I just don't think this is fair. I got family, I got 2 kids. I just came here with this program. I didn't want to get kicked out. I don't, this kind of shit like that. Because if you don't pass the PT shit, you get kicked out. You're fired. And then if you get kicked out, you have to do a full year. And if you do a full year, they just send you to the Nellis. You just transfer right into the main line. And if you go to Nellis, the chances are you're going to fucking catch additional time because in Nellis was the gladiator school. You're not getting out of there fucking scot-free. So, there's a lot on the line, so to speak. So he says that. And the Aragon's like, oh, is there anybody else that's got something to say? And then the Cholo guy, who's very, very hardcore essay. This is a extinct. They don't act like this no more. Now they're all like, damn, nigga this, nigga that. None of those fools said that word ever, ever, ever. None of the Mexican fools ever said that fucking word. Then Diablo was like, yeah, sir, me, I don't even know this guy. Why do I keep getting disciplined for him? So then Aragon takes this opportunity to try to isolate Barajas further. And ultimately everybody says something and he comes to me. I don't know the Barajas. I don't even like the guy Barajas. But I'm on my own fucking trip. And my own trip don't bow down. So he comes to me. He's like, I was like, no, I don't, sir, no, sir. He's like, you got a problem too? I was like, sir, no, sir. He's like, oh, really? So that actually got me on his radar now. He ended up letting Barajas off of the hook and the whole squad and got to the point where he turned me into what he called the Ghost Squad. So each group, I forgot how it went, had a color. I think each whole group. So Bravo had like, depending on the month that you were in, you had a color so they knew because at the 4th month you were a graduating class. So you start off with like yellow or some shit like that. I don't know. So whatever the color was, he got to the point where he's like, you know what? You aren't part of the group. And he just made me wear a white shirt and called me the Ghost Platoon. So when and one of the things that he had me do was sit, not like flat, but like sit with my back against the wall and hold myself up. I got really fucking crazy strong. All the PT that people did, I had to do more. Plus, I was always doing push-ups for other people that messed up too. He would literally tell me, oh, you fucked up, Caffrey. Drop and give me 5 for whatever they did. Okay, and I'm like, boom, do it. And never fucking cry or say anything. He'd come to my bed, same thing. Oh, your bed's fucked up. He'd mess up my bed and then, okay, drop and give me 5. And then I would get up, I would make the bed, and I knew how to make the bed, so I'd make the bed right. And then he'd fuck it up and he'd drop and give me 5 again. And I would do down until I couldn't do no push-ups. I couldn't even do one fucking push. Oh, you can't even do a fucking push-up. So when we did our runs, our 2-mile runs, because I was a Ghost Platoon, I had to run around the group while they ran around the facility. So on Sunday, we did a 5-mile jog, and the jog is just literally like, you're basically, it's a 5-mile walk, but you're just bouncing. I was running around the group as a Ghost Platoon until finally the guards that didn't like him saw an opportunity in me to retaliate against him for snitching on them for beating up kids. So they complained about him for me and forced him to give me a colored shirt and put me back in the group, which made him hate me even more. He really hated me now. He didn't really hate me the first time. He was fucking around, but now he hated me. I became a weapon. Whenever he was off, because they only worked 5 days, the guards that were his enemies would pull me out, because he ended up making Barajas his captain, squad, or platoon leader. So he would left, right, when we run or something like that, and he'd do cadences. So when this guy Aragon was out, his enemies would put, Bras, get back in line, Caffrey, get out here. And they were like, okay, Caffrey, go, lead us. And I'd be left, you left, you right, left, whatever we're doing, running or fucking drills and shit like that. And they would even give me a fucking soda because they knew that at least, in the very least, Barajas was reporting to Aragon and that it was going to irk him even more. So that was just an interesting experience. I got very fit. It was an amazing experience. I loved it, to be honest with you. But what that made me realize was right before I had gone to jail, there was, in where I lived, in Sepulveda and Orion, or basically Orion and Rayon, if you Google Maps it, in North Hills, in the San Fernando Valley. It used to be called the city of Sepulveda. But right around this time, they had changed the name of Sepulveda in the surrounding community, which was a lot of houses, to North Hills. And only Sepulveda was basically a 4-block radius. It might have been down to Roscoe, but I'm pretty sure it was, so it's like a Nordoff to maybe Roscoe, but I don't even think it was Roscoe. I think it was just a Parthenia. and Sepulveda to the 405 freeway. Because it was so fucking rife with horrible with crime and shit like that. It was just super ghetto. The city of Los Angeles figured, since it was that 4-block radius was such a terrible fucking ghetto, that the solution was to put up a fucking wrought iron gate around because the freeway blocked one thing. So one, they had a tunnel that used to a walkway under the freeway. That got filled in, but that happened all across the whole valley. Those are all gone at that time. Because there was one by my grandparents' house in Granada Hills, which was a nicer area. I mean, it took a little bit longer, but they ended up filling that one in too, ultimately. But this one that you could walk under the freeway in a walkway, that got filled in, boarded off first, but then they kept pulling off the boards and using it for whatever. So then they just filled that fucking shit in with concrete. So there was only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 streets to come in and out of that thing. So what they did is they put wrought iron fences, gates, on 4 except for the 5th one that was on Sepulveda and Rayan. So you can enter and exit at Sepulveda and Rayan, but on the other ones they had wrought iron fences where you could only exit. You couldn't come in until some human rights groups complained and did some kind of fucking thing and forced the city to take down the wrought iron under the human rights justification that was collective punishment, and they were imprisoning a whole community. That was even before I went to jail the first time. So because when I got out, because I went to jail, my mom was able to afford moving out of the ghetto and got an apartment in just a couple neighborhoods over, which was a nicer place. So when I got out from the first 21 months, we were living in a whole nother area. But before I went in, so it just made me realize, watching this movie made me realize, oh shit, I see that as a pattern. You know, it was already, my community was a ghost platoon to LA until external forces spoke up. And, you know, still to this day though, if you Google Maps it right now, just do Orion and Nordhoff, you'll see that they still have the streets barricaded in one sense, but they just paint it off now. But you can still only exit on the 4 ways and double enter and exit on that one street. They just had to take down the wrought iron, but they wouldn't give up that whole thing, which makes sense because it's a fucking ghetto, scared, terrifying neighborhood. So it's not as terrifying today. But to then go into this other situation where I became my own ghost platoon is just an interesting reflection, if maybe delusion, that came upon me while watching this movie that I had to share. And I gotta go pee really bad because I'm drinking a lot of caffeine.